friends, how are you doing today? My name is Mary and this is Happily Ever Esch. So today I would like to film my March wrap up, and I'm also going to throw in a Friday reads or currently reading. I didn't have the best reading month in March. I had our biggest fundraiser for work at the end of the month, so the last 2 weeks we're just working a lot of extra hours. As well as I didn't read a ton of things that I loved this month, and so I think that kind of put me into a little bit of a slumpy mood. So anyway, I would like to share with you guys all the books that I read in March. The first book that I read was The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business, and this was by Charles Duhigg. I listened to it on audiobook. I'll put a picture of it here. I did enjoy listening to this story on audiobook. This is all about habits, how our brain form habits, why they form habits, and kind of how we can have power over them, and how also looking at business and things like AA, different marketing techniques, just all different things that habits influence in our life. It was a really interesting book. I gave it 3 stars. I thought that a lot of the things that it talked about and the people that it studied were very similar to Moonwalking with Einstein, which I listened to earlier this year, and I liked that book better. I also thought that a lot of the things that were talked about in this book probably could have been summed up in like a well-written article. I just thought that it kind of dragged on a little bit. There wasn't a storyline kind of running throughout it. There were just lots of little anecdotal stories, which kind of also broke it up and didn't make it as intriguing to listen to. But I felt like I gained a good understanding of how habits work and to kind of recognize a habit in your life, and especially if it's a bad habit, it's something that you're wanting to fix. And he talks a lot about the cue, the routine, and the reward, and kind of how that is very ingrained into our habits, and that's kind of what we need to recognize in our habit formations to change them. But yeah, it was very interesting. I would definitely say that if habits and kind of the psychology behind habits interest you, I would pick this up. But yeah, a solid 3-star listen on audio. The next book that I finished was Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is a fantasy story following Agnieszka and the dragon. Agnieszka lives in this valley where every 10 years the dragon, or the powerful wizard in her land, comes and takes a girl. There's lots of mystery surrounding this. The girls, when they come back, never really want to live in the land again. They always want to go off and travel, and so there's kind of mystery shrouding this. But I found this to be a very enjoyable fantasy read. I must say I did not get on with Novik's writing style. She did have some beautiful sentences and sentiments, as you can see. I've tabbed up the side, but I just thought that maybe it could have used some more editing. The sentence structures were just confusing to me. I just felt like they was not a smooth or flowing writing style, and it could just be me personally. I know lots of people who really enjoy this book and enjoy her writing style. Just personally, I did not get on well with it. I almost DNF'd it multiple times purely for that fact that I was just so confused. It slowed me down, and I felt like it was so jarring, and it was just something that I could never kind of get into. But the world was very cool. I loved the ending. I gave this book a 3 stars purely for the ending. I think it definitely would have been a lower rating had I not loved the ending so much, but it was a magical, beautiful, just fairy tale ending. There was kind of the myth of the land woven into it, and I absolutely loved it. I just felt like a lot of the middle probably could have been cut out. So I have very mixed emotions on this book. I definitely think I can understand why people love it. I definitely can. Just for me, the ending, even though it was awesome, couldn't redeem the rest of the book that I kind of just had to sludge through. So yeah, a solid 3 stars from me. I definitely think if you're interested in fantasy, especially with a strong female heroine, it's got a kind of a cool magic system, and I think it kind of leaves a lot to the imagination, which I enjoyed. I think there's lots of things to like about this book. I just maybe would say check it out from the library before like jumping in feet first like I did. I got this for Christmas. I wish I would have checked it from the library because it wasn't something that I absolutely loved. The next book I listened to is called Telling the Bees by Peggy Hesketh. I'll put a picture here. Another one I listened to on audiobook. This was like a literary fiction kind of mystery story. This follows our main character. His name is Albert, I think. I think his name is Albert. And his next door neighbors are murdered, and we find this out very, very soon in the story. He's a beekeeper, telling the bees, that's the story, and it kind of follows his life. He lives a very quiet life. He's a very quiet soul, but the story I just thought was totally overwritten. Esch writes painstakingly detailed about everything that this man is doing, but his life is just, it's kind of boring. There's a lot of things that I didn't care about. His relationships with his neighbors were not intriguing or interesting to me. It's the kind of literary fiction that I just don't really get on with, just completely overly descriptive to the point of like, I think it's pointless. I don't feel like there was a point to the writing. The story, there's not much plot at the end. You kind of learn why the murder has happened. And yeah, it was a 2-star read for me. I wouldn't recommend it. I didn't feel like the characters' motives were clear ever. I didn't feel like I got a good sense of who they were, why they were doing the things they were. I didn't care about them. If this hadn't been an audiobook, I would not have finished it. And so yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. And then the last book I listened to is really a short story. It was The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. Just a short little 65-page book. I listened to it on audiobook. I listened to it one day to and from work. It was like an hour listen. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 3.5 star. This follows a female character, and I really enjoy the way Gillian Flynn writes female characters. She just has a very distinct way she writes them. They're just always so morally gray, which I love. You just kind of never know what they're gonna do, what they're thinking. I love the way that she writes her main female protagonist, but it was a modern day ghost story. She gives a lot of little nods to classic ghost or gothic writers, and yeah, I definitely, not something that I would say run out, you have to read, but it was a very enjoyable listen on audiobook. I think it was a fun little short book. I definitely enjoyed it. I love also the power of suggestion and how that's kind of a theme that's played in this story, and that was just a cool thing that I thought Gillian Flynn did with it, kind of exploring the power of suggestion, and it was a cool concept for her to explore in that short story. So those were the 4 things I actually completed. I'm in the middle of a lot of things, which I think is another reason it's kind of contributing to my slumpiness. I usually read maybe 1-2 books, and so I'm in the middle of a bunch of things, and I think that's just kind of weird for me. But the first being North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I'm about halfway through with this, and I am absolutely loving this. I am kind of like happy and sad. Sad that it took me so long to pick Elizabeth Gaskell up, but happy to know that I have her whole backlist to continue to explore, because I love her writing, I love her storytelling, I love Margaret Hale as a main heroine. I love Gaskell's commentary on capitalism versus human rights and the workers. You know, she's exploring so many things. I mean, this was written in the late 1800s, but she's exploring so many things that we're still dealing with today, like timeless topics of, you know, what rights do workers have, how much should people get because of their hard work, like what should be innately a human right versus like what is, you know, a human's right to earn things and to make a living and a name for themselves. I don't know, she just explores so many cool concepts in this. I'm excited to finish this. I'm absolutely loving this, and I think it's going to be a new favorite classic for me. Next, I'm about a third of the way through Station 11. I'm absolutely loving this one as well. This is a beautiful dystopian story. Emily St. John Mandel does a wonderful job of just weaving her storylines together. It's like she leaves little breadcrumbs for you, and you slowly are following them and picking them up and eating them and getting more full as you read the story, and I love that. I love the world that she's creating. I love her characters. I love her writing. I'm just so excited to continue with this, and I think it's going to be another book that I'm really loving. So that was nice to have. I kind of had a slower, not so great beginning of the month, but to end on two that I'm still reading and really enjoying has been good to kind of push me out of my slumpiness. Next thing, I was listening to Redeployment by Phil Kay on audiobook, and I had to return it. So I went ahead and just checked it out from the library. This is a short story collection about from the Iraqi War. This has been a really hard read. There are a lot of things that make me uncomfortable about this book, but it's just, I think, a great book to read and maybe have a little more empathy for people who had to live through this, to fight in this war, but also the citizens and the civilians that had to live in this place. I don't know, this is giving me just a whole new perspective, a whole new way of kind of thinking about the war, and I'm really grateful for that, and I'm excited to finish this. I think if you enjoyed The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, that you would enjoy this. This is just a very similar style. The Things They Carried are short stories written about the Vietnam War, and again, short stories about the Iraqi War. I think it's a very good way to learn about the war and to kind of experience other people's experiences, if that makes sense. I think war stories just transfer well into the short story form of writing. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this. I'm not sure, I was really liking the audiobook, and I've tried to pick this up a couple times, but I think I'm going to maybe read some stories, but I also want to get the audiobook and listen along while I read. Last thing that I'm listening to right now is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is Coates writing like essay letters to his son about what it's like to be a black man in America. This is a very hard read. It makes me uncomfortable, but like I say that in the best way. It's one of those books where it's like just hearing a new perspective and written in such an honest way has just been good for me to, again, kind of expand my mind, expand my worldview a little bit, and so I'm really excited. I'm about 3/4 the way done with that, really enjoying listening to it. Ta-Nehisi Coates narrates it, so that kind of gives it a whole new level of meaning. Just hearing him read his experiences and his essays is just, it's been really cool. I'm very excited to finish this, and it's one that I think I'm going to be thinking about for a while and mulling over, and one I definitely want to read physically again, because there's so many things that I keep bookmarking in my audiobook, because just so many sentences that just resonate and I just want to mull over and think about. So I would suggest, I think Toni Morrison says that it should be required reading, and I agree. I think everyone should have to read this book and just kind of be confronted with it, and I think that would be good for America. So anyway, I'm really enjoying that, looking forward to finishing it, and I will probably be purchasing a physical copy so I can underline it and tab it and just have to think about. So that is my wrap up and what I'm currently reading. I hope April will be an awesome month. I get to read finally the 3rd book in the Armand Gamache series, so I'm excited for April, and I'm hoping that it'll be a little more positive of a month for me. But I would love to know how your reading month was in March, what you read, what you enjoyed, what you didn't. I would love to chat about it in the comments, and I hope to talk to you all very soon. Bye.